Yesterday we were classifying triangles. Today we're going to classify quadrilaterals. Okay. Just like triangles, it's going to be based off of sides and whether or not they're congruent and angles. The difference between quadrilaterals and triangles is that we don't have two different sets of names. Triangles, we have a set of names based on two different attributes of the triangles. What are those two different attributes? You guys just did this. What are the two different attributes of triangles that help us name them? You can have names based on sides, which are scalene, isosceles, and equilateral. And you can have names based on angles, which are acute, obtuse, and right. Okay. And now that we've done a quick review of yesterday, we have two questions. So somewhere in your book, on your whiteboards, you're going to answer 1 and 2. Okay, hold up your whiteboards. Number 1 is what? It's isosceles. And number 2 is what? Scalene. Okay, so number 1 is isosceles. And number 2 is scalene. All right. Now, we're going to talk about different types of quadrilaterals. So everything that we're going to be talking about today is classified under quadrilateral. The only thing is that there are subcategories, just like triangles, okay? Everything we talked about yesterday was a triangle, even though we had scalene triangles, isosceles triangles, we had all those things, okay? So today we're going to talk about quadrilaterals. So who can tell me something in the classroom that is a rectangle? Something in the classroom that is a rectangle. Rendon.
The thing right there that's for your foot.
The sit and reach box. Sit and reach. Box. Now, a parallelogram. Ella. The TV. The TV is a parallelogram. The TV is also some other thing. What is it?
Square.
Oh. You say a square, but you know a TV, the ratio is actually, the older tube TVs like what we have sitting over there on our shelf is, it's actually a 4:3 ratio. Which means for every 4 inches it is wide, it's 3 inches. I mean, every 4 inches it is tall, it's 3 inches wide. Or vice versa. 4 inches wide, 3 inches tall. So that means that TV is not actually a perfect square. Okay. So it would be a what? A rectangle. Alright. Now, a rhombus. No, that would be a rectangle. Yes, Rendon.
If you turn a PRA check this way sideways.
A PRA check slip. The PRA check slips are rectangles to begin with, so they would not be a rhombus. Okay, a rhombus has all 4 sides are congruents. Okay? It does not have to have 90-degree angles, though. So a rhombus can be shaped like a diamond. Okay? So these angles don't have to be 90 degrees, okay? But all the sides have to be the same length. And they have to be parallel to one another. Okay? A square. What in the classroom is a square?
This.
Alina? The clock in the back of the room, our yellow clock. Our yellow clock. And our last one. A trapezoid. Cooper. I do have one written, drawn on the board, but let's find something in the room that's the shape of a trapezoid. There is something. I will tell you that. What? Yes, yes, yes. Our scale. The red base on the scale. It's our balance scale. So the red base on balance scale. Good job, people. All right, moving on. Okay, this is going to be the most important page that you have for today. This page is very, very, very important because every single thing that you do tonight is going to be based off of this page. Okay? Now, quadrilaterals go in two different directions. You have a trapezoid. Your trapezoid has exactly how many pairs of opposite sides that are parallel? Two pairs, huh? One pair. So if we look at this trapezoid, this and this are parallel. These are not. Okay? So it needs one pair of parallel sides. Why is this important? Because we're going to classify our quadrilaterals today. When we are classifying our quadrilaterals, the first thing we need to see is how many sides are parallel. Okay? If there's only one pair of sides that are parallel, it is automatically a what? If there are only one pair of sides that are parallel, it is automatically a trapezoid. Okay? If there are no parallel sides, it stays a... Now, if we have one pair, no pairs, what's next? Two pairs. So, a parallelogram is a quadrilateral with sides that are congruent and parallel. They are congruent and parallel. Now, underneath parallelogram, we have three more shapes. Now, this is important because this is important to know. Because I have three more shapes under here, that means each one of these shapes are also a parallelogram. Okay? We're going to start with the one with 4 right angles. Oh. We're going to start off over here, our rectangle. This is a parallelogram with how many right angles? 4 right angles. Then, so that means that it has, look at, our rectangle is a quadrilateral with opposite sides that are congruent. So this is congruent with this is congruent with this, and they're parallel. So this is parallel to this top is parallel to the bottom, and this side is parallel to this side. On top of that, it has 4 right angles. So a rectangle is also a parallelogram. Okay? Now we're going to come over here, and we're going to go over here, and we're going to talk about a rhombus. A rhombus is a parallelogram with how many sides that are congruent?
4. 2.
How many sides are congruent? Congruent would mean the same length. How many of those sides are the same length?
4.
All 4 of them. Now, listen, this is important. So we have a quadrilateral with opposite sides. This side is congruent to this side. This side is congruent to this side, correct? And parallel. This side is parallel to this side, and this side is parallel to that side. So a rhombus is also a what? Parallelogram. But it has 4 sides that are congruent. Okay? So it's still a parallelogram, but all 4 sides are congruent. Why is that important? Because tonight you are going to be asked to classify shapes. You're going to be able to call everything a parallelogram. Well, just about everything, except for what? Except for our trapezoid. I don't want you to stop there. We need to be as specific as we possibly can. Okay? Which brings us to our last shape. This is the big daddy of all parallelograms. It is the square. Because it's a parallelogram with how many congruent sides? 4. 4 sides that are the same length. What else has 4 sides that are the same length?
Rectangle. Parallelogram.
Let's not guess today, please. What is the other shape that has 4 sides that are the same length? A rhombus. So a square is also a what? A rhombus. And which also makes it a parallelogram. And how many right angles does a square have? 4. Which also makes it a rectangle. So a square is a rectangle, a rhombus, and that's why the square is the big daddy of all parallelograms, because it has the attributes of every single parallelogram. So down on the bottom here, it says a square has all the attributes of a rectangle and a what? Rhombus. Attributes, characteristics. A square has all 4 sides that are, it's a parallelogram with 4 congruent sides with 4 right angles. 4 congruent sides, 4 right angles. Okay? This example is how you're going to classify all of your shapes tonight. Refer back to this. Okay? All right. We'll move on now. All right. Example number 2. If we look at this building over here to the right, we can see that they drew us a shape. Boom, 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 boom. Okay? Shh, don't start guessing. We are going to look at its attributes before determining what kind of shape it is. So on the side of the building is shown at the right describe the attributes of the quadrilateral. Then we are going to classify it based on its attributes. So the quadrilateral has opposite sides that are what? What are the opposite sides? Well, this is where I thought we would be. So we're going to go right back to our last thing, and we're going to talk about this for a second. You're going to make sure that you write this down someplace. We have 3 different things that we look for when we are determining what kind of quadrilateral it is. So we have 1, 2, 3. 3 things we are looking for. The first thing that we are looking for anybody know? Ella. Congruent. That would be the second. What's the first thing? Think about it for a second. If I start here, I have my quadrilateral. I'm starting from this shape here. What is going to determine if I go that way or that way? Yes, ma'am.
Parallel.
How many sides are parallel in my trapezoid?
2.
I have 1 pair in my trapezoid that's parallel. How many pairs of parallel sides do I have in my parallelogram?
2.
I have 2 pairs, huh? So that's going to be the first thing that we look at, because if you only have 1 pair of parallel sides, what is it? It's a trapezoid. If we only have one pair of parallel sides, it's automatically a trapezoid. So, are the sides parallel? What's next? Congruent. Are the sides congruent? And are they all congruent? Or do we have 2 pairs that are congruent? Or 1 pair that's congruent? Okay? And the last thing we look at is right angles or 90-degree angles. Oops, ran out of room. 90-degree angles. Okay. So those are our 3 things that we're going to be looking for. So our first thing, the quadrilateral has opposite sides that are what? What are they? Are they parallel? The top is parallel with the bottom and the left is parallel with the right? Yes. So they are parallel. And they are also what? And they are congruent. Now, are these 90-degree angles? No, they're not, are they? So, this is what I'm telling you. We have to keep referring back. So, they are congruent. Opposite sides are congruent, and they are parallel. So, we know it's a what?
Parallel.
Okay, does it fit the rhombus? No, because all 4 are not congruent. We have 2 pairs, right? Which means it can't fit the square. Now, does it have right angles? No. So what is the shape? It's a parallelogram. So you see how we're going to refer back to our first example in order to classify these? Okay? So we're going to look at, are the sides parallel? Are the sides congruent? Does it have 90-degree angles? And then we're going to figure out what kind of shape it is. Yes. The picture's different, but the shape's the same, isn't it? Yeah, the picture is different, but the shape is the same. It says the quadrilateral has opposite sides. Yes, it does. And you're right. It doesn't say one side of the building shown to the right. It says what the building is in Spain. So, but that's okay. The building, the picture's the same, and the words are the same for what we're filling in. Okay. Now, we're going to look at another quadrilateral. Opposite sides of the quadrilateral are what?
Parallel.
They're all parallel, which means that we know it's at least a parallelogram, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. So they are parallel. They are also what?
Congruent.
They're also congruent. Congruent means what? Congruent means equal, right? Now, do we have two pairs of congruent sides, or are all four sides congruent?
Two pairs.
We have two pairs. Okay? Now, are there any right angles?
Yeah.
How many?
4.
So this quadrilateral is a what? Rectangle. Okay. Now, in your homework, they don't have these written out for you. Okay? There's just blank lines. So what do you need to do? You need to write this out, because I need to see that you looked at, are the sides parallel? Are they congruent? Does it have right angles? Okay? If you're not writing it out, I can't see that you showed your work. All right, we have one more example to do together. Okay, now, this tripped up a lot of people in our last class. The reason why it tripped up a lot of people is because they didn't read the directions very well. Our directions say the design below is made up of a repeating quadrilateral. Describe the quadrilateral, then classify the quadrilateral based on its attributes. It's a repeating quadrilateral, which means we're not looking at the entire shape. We're only looking at one quadrilateral. Okay? So, our last group wanted to look at the entire shape. We don't want to look at the entire shape. Just one of them. So how many congruent sides does this quadrilateral have?
4.
There are 4 congruent sides. Opposite sides are what? Parallel. So now, we want to go back. Remember this, we have 4 congruent sides, opposite sides are parallel. So if we go back, opposite sides, congruent and parallel. So we know we're talking about a parallelogram, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now all 4 sides are congruent. So where does that put us? What shape does that put us at? A rhombus, right, because a rhombus says that the 4 sides are congruent. Now, we need to check one more thing to make sure we can stop there. What is it? No, we already know that opposite sides are parallel. There's one more thing that we have to check to make sure that we can stop at rhombus. Right angles. Good job, X. So let's look at our shape. Is there right angles in it?
Yes.
No, there are not. Okay. We have two different types of angles. This is an obtuse angle, and this is an acute angle, but neither of them are right angles. So the quadrilateral is a what? It is a rhombus. Okay. Now, here's what your homework looks like. Okay? You see how there's just 3 blank lines? You are going to have to write in opposite sides are something something. Blank, blank, right? There are blank right angles. And then the name of the shape. Okay? You can probably fit it on your 3 lines because you can write neater than I can with my stylus. Do you get it? Alright. I know band has to go in about 5 minutes. Right? So I will give you guys some time to work on this. Yes, sir. That's fine.
Like this.
Thank you. Yes. Yes. Tomorrow's quiz.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's quiz, chapter 12, lesson 3, chapter 12, lesson 5. What? It's triangles and quadrilaterals. Game day is at Jefferson.